Hi guys, Ollie here, welcome back to the channel. I'm a third year medical student at Warwick Medical School on the graduate entry programme in the United Kingdom. Now very quickly before we begin, this is my first kind of go at how to handle one of the ethical dilemma stations. What I'm going to do when the video gets going is I'm going to flash up on the screen a set of instructions just like you would receive in your genuine medical school interview if you do an MMI circuit. What I need you to do is when it comes up, give yourself about 50-60 seconds to read it. That's about as much time as you'd have in real life. Have a think about what you would do, and then when we get into the video, I'm going to show you, or tell you at least, how I would approach a situation like this and the sorts of things that you might want to consider. I appreciate that this is a bit artificial. I promise that I am going to get some actual filmed example scenarios with colleagues of mine, and I can show you in a room how it would look and how you might physically behave, but that is logistically a bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be, and this is the best we have for now, but I promise that I will do duplicates of all of these stations that I talk about so that you can see how they're done in real life. So this is going to be a difficult scenario about sharing exam questions, so I'll flash the instructions up now and then we'll get going with the explanation. So, as you might have gathered from the instructions, this is very much a station about integrity. And the way that we know that, this is essentially the most obvious characteristic that they can test, is that you have an opportunity to be self-serving or to do something that benefits you with a small chance of any repercussion. Realistically, you have the opportunity to behave in a negative way without necessarily being found out. But you should have the integrity not to do that. That's going to be the point of a situation like this. And there are several ways that you might wish to proceed, so what we'll do is examine each of those in turn. But before we do that, we have to understand exactly what's wrong with this situation, okay? Why is it so bad, fundamentally, to share exam answers in this situation when all that matters is that the med students have to get through the exam in order to become doctors? The NHS doesn't have anywhere near enough active physicians, so surely shuttling as many medical students through school and failing as few as possible in order to make up the shortfall is going to be a really good thing, because more doctors, better patient care. And furthermore, arguably, there's the case that particularly if the exam is not worth much of the course and it's in an obscure subject, something like histopathology, for example, then a few extra marks on this one exam that come from what is technically cheating, they're not going to have a significant impact on a person's wider practice. It's not going to affect anything really in the long run. But obviously the fundamental issue with situations like this is that of patient safety. Medical schools have very, very clear set rules about their exams and their assessment processes that themselves come down from what the GMC stipulate, and obviously it's the GMC that are in charge of registering doctors. So if you have a medical student that is knowingly willing to break rules for their own benefit, and they're doing that in an environment where the consequences are less dire, where patient safety isn't directly at stake, how on earth are you going to trust them not to misbehave in a system where those things are at stake? And the secondary problem is that medical school exams are not in place to stop people becoming doctors for no kind of good reason. They're to stop unqualified people or people who aren't academically capable at that moment in time. People can retake exams or have a bad day. Medical schools understand that. But you can't let through someone who on exam day doesn't meet the minimally competent pass mark, because the purpose of those exams is to highlight problems in people's knowledge that could have tangible effects on patient health. Because it's really easy to imagine that if that doctor gets through and that issue hasn't been spotted, Sod's Law dictates that the one time they're involved on their own in an emergency situation and they have that gap in their knowledge, they're not going to be able to save the patient when it's their job to do so. And thirdly, doctors are meant to be paragons of virtue, truthfulness and honesty, and to an extent they're viewed as all those things by members of the public. Imagine how you would feel if you were in hospital or in your GP practice being treated. You're divulging very personal, sometimes intimate information to your doctor, and you found out that they cheated on their medical school exams and technically shouldn't have gotten through. You're not going to have that much confidence in that physician, and that could affect your own health outcomes. So I said there were several ways of proceeding. As ever, in any case in medicine, option 0, as it were, is do nothing. You get the same benefits as anyone else from reading this paper with the exam answers on it. You might do a little bit better than you would otherwise, I suppose, if you've been studying for it, and potentially no one will be any the wiser. You've got some degree of plausible deniability on your side, because unless the medical school, if they find out, they'd have to specifically find evidence that you had anything to do with it to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt if there were to be any personal problems for you as a result of this situation. That is to say that unless they can actively prove that you were involved with this, they're going to find it very difficult legally and logistically to take action against you personally. But the problem, obviously, with this is that you are then complicit, it could be argued, in undermining a process or a series of processes that are put in place for no other reason than for good patient care, and that's not really a good look for you, is it? So in terms of actual solutions to this problem, the first thing that you can do obviously is talk to your friend about this. This is definitely wrong, and it's something that any medical student would reasonably be expected to know was wrong, and it's something that neither of you should be involved with. So you should recommend that they take the copy that they've obtained to the medical faculty as quickly as possible. And the reason I say as quickly as possible, as far away from the exam as possible, is that this gives the medical school time to deal with it adequately. That might mean, writing new questions, updating their test bank, maybe changing the nature or the date of the exam, and conducting their own internal investigations so they can work out how these things have been leaked. And just to address the stonking great elephant in the medical school, if this is found out after the exam, it will either be deemed void or everyone will be taking a resit. You will not reap any sort of benefit from this situation if it's found out. And if it's circulating through the medical school to the point where many people in the year will have seen it, the odds of that happening get exponentially higher with each new person involved. So the odds are not good from the start. I think essentially what I'm saying is, if you are going to cheat or you're thinking about cheating, A, don't cheat, it's bad, you shouldn't do it. Have some stern words with yourself. And B, if ultimately you are going to cheat, at least cheat smarter than that. That's a stupid way to cheat. So if this came up in an interview and this was the course of action you took, which I think is the most appropriate first step, an easy thing to do would be for the simulated person, the friend in this scenario, if it was a role play, they might become very angry and defensive and take your conversation with them as a personal attack. That would be a natural reaction for someone in this circumstance because they're threatened by the things you're saying. And what you've really got to be careful of here is, if I were designing a station like this, I would use this opportunity to test your integrity again by having the friend try to guilt trip you. It might be a point of no return as far as your friendship goes, because it's basically a situation of, you're going to rat me out. I thought we were friends. Does upholding the medical school's arbitrary rule set mean more to you than our however many years of friendship? It's a betrayal, fundamentally, and that's what it is. it's a betrayal for a good reason. I would like to think it's more morally principled to follow the rules in this case. Obviously, there's a personal relationship involved. The other thing that might happen is they might threaten to tell, you know, everyone else in the medical school that you were the one who snitched on them, essentially. And that's difficult. Humans are really social creatures. Lots of people struggle at university as it is, particularly if you're far away from home. The threat of having your social circle cut off is a really big deal. And again, it's another chance to test your integrity, but please don't go for it. You need to be resilient about this, and you can still try and talk them round and say, "You look, no, that's not what this is about, but I know what the correct thing to do is." Something that might help you as well in this scenario, and this is good for dealing with confrontations in general, is you can do certain things with your body language and tone that will help. So maintain an open posture. Don't stand there with your arms crossed, kind of guarded and things like that. You know, arms by your side or on your hips or whatever you want to do. Open posture. Maintain eye contact, keep your back straight, and tone-wise, you just need to remain, you know, as I'm talking to you now, firm, clear, authoritative. And what all these things are going to do in combination is it's showing that you're not being defensive or antagonistic. You've got your open posture. You're just being transparent with your thought process. You're not trying to hide anything or to lie to them. If you can't maintain eye contact with them, it makes it look like you're either lying or you don't believe in what you're saying. You're letting them dominate the situation, and in this particular scenario, that's not a position you want to be in. And all of these things will also reduce any sense of hostility. Don't raise your voice, don't get angry, don't get judgy, just be firm, clear, straight to the point and honest. So we've tried talking to our friend, that might not work. So the next thing you obviously need to do is escalate. If you can convince your friend to give you a copy of the exam answers that they've found, or you can obtain a copy another way, that will be helpful to you. But either way, at this point, you know what's happening. You need to go and talk to the faculty. That's completely compulsory. So who do you go to? The best point of contact is someone that you can access quickly and reliably, maybe a personal tutor or a deputy senior tutor, or maybe even the head of your course if you've got access to them. The key thing is just saying that you would ask staff for help. You're not expected to know how to solve a problem like this. It's not a you problem, it's an administrative problem. And really, any member of the medical school staff, if you explain the situation to them, they will be able to point you in the right direction. Anyone with some common sense will be able to refer you properly. What I would also do in this situation, I don't know how you feel about this, make sure that you tell your friend when you leave them and they've refused to tell the faculty. You make it very clear to them, say, "Look, friend, I'm sorry, but I have to do this. I am going to tell the faculty," and what I would do is I would tell them when I'm about to do it. So I might go and find a staff member's office, wait outside, say to my friend, "Look, I'm going to go in 15 minutes and I'm going to explain what's happened. You have until then to change your mind." And what I think this does is it just gives them one more opportunity to come clean. If they want to, it might go a little bit further towards maintaining that relationship, because it's showing that you have the kind of compassion necessary to think of something like that. You're absolutely not obligated to do that, but the fact that you're offering them a lifeline might go some way towards at least sparing their feelings a little bit. And you should also be clear, I think, if you're going to name them as someone who's involved, which is not necessarily something I would recommend doing. I think it's only fair that you tell them that you're going to do that. But when you have the conversation with the staff member, unless the staff member asks, you don't need to name names. Just say, "Look, I know this thing is happening." You could even say, "I know people that are involved, I know who they are. However, for personal reasons, obviously, I don't want to give names. I don't want to grass anyone in, but please do your investigation and do what you need to do." I think if you do it that way, you cause the least amount of collateral damage while maintaining the proper protocols. I think that's the best solution towards a proper professional relationship in this case. And once you've had that conversation, the problem is effectively out of your hands. There's nothing more that you as a student would be required to do, because, as I said before, it's an administrative problem for the medical school to sort ultimately. So that's the end of this scenario, guys. I'd love to know what you think about things like this. Obviously, different people will deal with things in different ways, so I'd love to know what you think. Would you do anything different? Is what I would have done fair, unfair? Do you think it was the correct thing to do? Please let me know down in the comments. I'd be really interested to hear your opinions. And that's where we're going to wrap this episode. Thank you very much for watching. Please be sure to hit that like button for me, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the channel, you can go and watch my other videos. Find me on social media at PostGradMedic. Go and check out my website, postgradmedic.com. You can buy me a coffee if you want. The link is in the description. You can buy me a coffee if you want. The link to that is in the description below. That'll help support the channel and make future content. And I've partnered with 3D4 Medical to bring you guys 10% off their fantastic Complete Anatomy 2020 package. And if you order through my referral link, you'll save 10% off the first year of a student license, and I receive a small kickback when you purchase through my link, again in the description below. Thanks very much, guys. Take care. If there's ever anything I can do for any of you, you can get in touch through the contact form on my website or in the comments, and I'll help in any way I can. Take care, and I'll see you next time.